7:42 here on this Friday morning wake call. Time to head over to Michael Greene. He's got Friday with the Fuzz. Good morning, Michael.
Good morning. Thank you, Derek. In studio with us today, filling in for Chief Swoboda, is Commander Lalley. I almost called you Deputy Chief. I almost promoted you.
No.
It's all right. No.
No. Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
A couple things we want to talk about. We've got a guest. I'll let you introduce our guest here in just a moment. But we'll start out with the commercial burglary that I found interesting that happened, I think, just earlier this week, Tuesday night. And it's interesting because we've talked about technology and how it's helping, policing. It's probably hurting in as many ways as it's helping, right?
To balance,
yeah.
yes. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's a struggle to always keep up, but when you have video of someone, it kind of takes a lot of the guesswork out, I imagine. And
yes.
so there was an incident that happened Tuesday night with an arrest, but there was kind of a pre-existing
yes.
case involving these individuals. Can you talk a little bit about the case?
Sure. We arrested two individuals for burglary, and they were basically burglarizing vending machines. And we had
big money in that?
Well, realistically, I mean, if you're going to a vending machine and there's several vending machines, you could get $40, $50 from each machine. Multiply that by 5 times a week. You're making $200, $300, $400 a week for a very little time.
Right.
So these two individuals had engaged in some previous burglaries. So the staff at the hotel recognized them. We had also, from the previous attempts, retrieved video surveillance, and so we had also identified them, or were attempting to identify them. And at one point, Christy did put it up on Facebook, and then I think within a day, we were able to make an arrest. And that was due to the maintenance person who saw him at the vending machines, recognized him. And again, the importance of video surveillance technology, helping, it tremendously helps to solve crimes when we have it, when we can identify people. So it was a great case that worked out, and thanks to technology.
You also have a video through surveillance class this weekend.
Yes, we're hosting a security through surveillance class. This will be our 4th one. It's a 3-hour class Saturday morning from 9 to 12. We still have room available, so if anyone's interested, just call down to the police department. We'll give you information. And basically what we do is we teach residents, citizens, business owners the importance of camera placement, how we use video surveillance to solve crimes, kind of give them some tips on where to place cameras, and how it does actually help us. It's helpful when we get video surveillance, but it also has to be good video surveillance. So where to place the camera, how long to keep the video, things like that. So our technical investigations unit, Sergeant Jim Bisegli, runs the class along with 3 other detectives in our technical investigations unit. So if anyone's interested, tomorrow 9 to 12 at the police department, and we do have room. Also,
there was an incident just after we finished our show last week at Elgin High School.
Yes.
And always scary, just history with some of the things that have gone on, anything involving the kids in a school and threat of a gun, or
yes.
who knows what it is, and it could have just been an empty threat, which in this case,
yes,
I believe it was, right?
Yeah, we responded. It was about 9:30 in the morning last Friday, and it was for a report of a student who said that he brought a weapon into the school, and he made this comment in front of school staff along with police personnel. So at some point he changed his story and retracted the fact that no, I don't have a gun, but nonetheless we have to take the the threat serious. So in that instance we worked with school. The kids are held in what's called a hold-in place, where they're held in their classrooms. We had K-9 officers from Kane County, the ATF, TSA, and I think a couple other agencies who came out to help us with the school search. And we go classroom by classroom, then we have to search the grounds. In the meantime, parallel to that is the investigation. So our detectives from our major investigations division and juvenile division did a great job, and kind of get to the core of the story. In the end, we didn't find a weapon. The school was, students were fine, staff was fine, and so, we work with U46 with their staff. Our school resource officers do an exceptional job, so everything worked out. But we take threats like that extremely serious, and we have to go through the process to make sure that we eliminate whatever the threat is.
Curious about, and I know this is tough, and maybe we can take it away from this incident in particular, or threat like this where it was unfounded, someone made a false claim, you call in the ATF, you call in Kane County, you've got, all these different personnel. just see like the cash register, ching, ching, you know, like.
Yeah, it is.
Is there ever a way to turn around and
retrieve
charge
the
them
costs?
and retrieve the costs, or civilly go at?
That's usually up to the court system,
Okay.
and so.
I mean, maybe not with a juvenile. I
Yeah,
don't
in
know.
this instance, you know, it's going to be up to the court, and the court's going to decide, you know, what type of, you know, remedy should be in place so that this juvenile doesn't engage in this conduct again. But that's usually something that, you know, the state's attorney, the court will ask our opinion, but in the end, it's the state's attorney's decision on what the final result will be.
A couple of quick things we talked about. I know it's just concluded. Pinwheels are still up at the police station. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes, we had an event Saturday morning with the Elgin Juniors Women's Club and also CASA. And it was a pinwheel event to April's National Child Abuse Prevention Month. So we had a canine demonstration, representative from CASA spoke, and then we at the end placed pinwheels in the garden. So it was a great event. So we'd like to thank you know CASA, the Elgin Juniors Women's Club, and also Christy Schmidt from our police department who puts these events together. So it was nice. It was Saturday morning. It was about an hour. I was out there. The chief was out there, and we had a bunch of officers too. So it was a great event. You
had coffee with a cop. You also had a community service or community get-together. Ron's going to relax back over there. We'll get to him.
He wants me to keep talking. It's not going to happen, Ron.
Can you talk about the community involvement and the community get-togethers that you guys are doing and just how they're going?
Yeah,
and maybe when the next ones might be, if you have that.
We did a coffee with a cop at the Dunkin' Donuts on Larkin, so I want to thank their staff, their management for allowing us to have the event there. We had probably about 12 to 15 attendees, and you know, again, it's very short hour conversations, but the conversations go everywhere from what it is to be a police officer to traffic complaints and traffic issues to you know, what do rope officers do to, so it's just a really nice way to just sit down with people, very informal, get to know them, they get to know the officers, and we kind of, you know, we bring different officers to each event. This is our 4th event. And you know, they get to see the officers' personalities, and I think it, you know, it's a very not a stressful environment, so people can kind of put their guard down a little bit. So it was a great event. We're going to continue to do them. I'm not sure the next one. You know, I usually start planning the next one after, you know, probably next week sometime, and then we get it out on Facebook. But the community is great. You know, people ask a lot of good questions, and they kind of throw you off with some of the questions they ask you, but. It's good. We're going to continue to do it and have these community conversations, engage with our community, and it's nice to see, you know, when we're there to hear their concerns, and we don't, you know, we want to hear it, because if we don't know of something, if they're not happy with something, what can we do better? That's the only way we're going to know. So we enjoy it, and we're going to continue to do them.
What's one of the questions that's, like you said, thrown you off?
You know, they'll ask, you know, one of the questions I had was, you know, being a female in law enforcement and how it was when I first started. And it was one of those, you know, obviously, yes, I'm female. So, but you don't really, I think the more time that you're in law enforcement, you know, you don't identify as I've never identified as a female police officer. So it's just when someone asks you something like that and you think about, it was way different when I started almost 20 years ago, and the environment and how, you know, women were viewed in law enforcement. So, you know, it kind of throws you off a second, because I'm very used to how, you know, it is now. You know, everybody is, you know, we're all equals. It's not about your gender, your race, or anything like that. It's about your work product and your work ethic. So it's one of those things where you're kind of like, you pause for a moment and you think, yeah, okay, yeah, I can remember going to calls, and, you know, there were officers who were, you know, twice my age who, you know, ignored me. I mean, literally standing next to me ignored me, that I didn't even exist, and it's not like that anymore. So it was one of those things where I, you know, I had to think for a second, because it's completely different now. It's, you know, it's much better.
Distracted Driving Month is also April.
That's why Ron is here.
I know there was a statistic put up about distracted driving and cell phone use, and I'd heard a stat a while back that I think distracted driving with like cell phones or talking on the phone is actually more dangerous statistically than driving drunk. I mean, I'm not advocating anybody to drive drunk, but I think statistically, probably more people are doing it, and that's why.
Yeah, well, distracted driving, I mean, I'll give you
I see it every day. It's one of my huge pet peeves.
Yes.
I see just people on the phone all day.
You know,
because I drive for my job. I do a lot of driving.
Yeah.
And I'm on the roads, you know, down Naperville, Aurora, Montgomery, Oswego, and I mean, not a day goes by I don't see at least 2 or 3 people with their phone up to their ear.
It's an interesting thing too, because when your drive to work, or if you're driving for work, sometimes that can really aggravate your day. Sometimes people, they take it, I'm stuck in traffic and now I'm late, and then it ruins the rest of their day. So traffic, it's a funny thing. We have a lot of community meetings, and the core a lot of times is traffic complaints, citizen complaints about speeding or texting and driving, or rolling through stop signs. But yes, April is National Distracted Driving Awareness Month, and just a couple stats I want to throw out before Ron takes the mic here. These are from stats from 2013, which is the most current. 3,154 people killed in motor vehicle crashes involving distracted driving. Drivers in their 20s make up 27% of distracted drivers. And engaging in any type of visual or manual tasks, distracted driving, it's talking on the cell phone, texting on the cell phone, putting makeup on, doing your hair, talking to your kids, changing the radio station. If you're engaged in any of those types of behaviors, you're 3 times more likely to be involved in a traffic crash. And the hard thing is that the stats that we have, you're really not going to get 100% true gauge, because people are not going to be forthcoming. If there's a traffic crash, you're not going to say, "Oh, an officer, I was texting while I," So the data is a little bit, this is what the data that we do have. So there's not a simple way to say whether or not the cell phone caused the crash. And in that too, we've had cases, some of the larger cases, where a significant injury takes place, where we can subpoena cell phone records. But for your everyday, you see somebody on the cell phone, and then are we going to subpoena someone's cell phone records? It's not going to happen for a petty offense, which is a traffic ticket. So, Elgin Police Department, some of the things that we do is just education, the public awareness, putting things out on Facebook, coming on the radio show. Doing extra enforcement and just getting the message out, working with the schools, doing some events in schools, and maybe Ron can talk about the traffic unit or anything that he wants to talk about. As Ron Spejcher is here, I'll introduce him.
Yeah.
He's our senior patrol officer for our traffic division. The traffic division at the police department is a Lieutenant Jeff Adam. Our sergeant is Kevin Senni, and then we have 4 officers. So it's Ron and 3 other officers, and they are extremely busy, from traffic enforcement to traffic reconstruction, which Ron is a big part of, to following up on hit-and-run crashes, to, we get a lot of citizen complaints about speeding, so they have to go out there and maybe do some enforcement or put a speed trailer up so we can get some data. And then, we do the public awareness and education, going into the schools, doing events and then participating in events to bring awareness to, driving safely and the importance of it as well. So, with that, maybe you want to ask Ron some questions.
Yeah, no. Thanks for joining us, Ron.
I was hoping that clock would run out.
Yeah, no, we got a couple minutes yet. Curious about, I guess the biggest question I would have is, how can you really put a dent in some of the distracted driving? I mean, what is Elgin doing to try to curb that more? Well,
Anna mentioned the education, and then we've stepped up enforcement. It's kind of a learning curve. It's kind of like seatbelts were. When they legislated, you had to wear a seatbelt in front seats, personnel, or people in the front seat, and now everyone in the vehicle. It's a learning curve. I mean, it's been allowed for so many years, and now it's been legislated that it's illegal. So people have got to get used to it. The phone rings, you don't think, you pick it up to your head. Okay? It happens.
Yeah.
But they've determined through crash statistics and other ongoing events that for your safety, you can't be on the cell phone while driving.
Are there... You can't really set up roadblocks. You can't, because if someone sees them, right, they're going to put their phone down, right? I mean, so is it just through actual like patrols that when you see someone that you pull them over, or?
Well, on patrols, yes, you can stop at the side of the road and watch cars going by, and they're on their phone. Hey, you can even identify what color it is. If they got the power cord attached, it's that obvious, or they're holding it in front of them, so they're trying to be sneaky. Also, when we're doing the IDOT traffic grants through on the Department of Transportation for their seatbelt check areas, seatbelt safety zones, we frequently see people on their phone driving up to the seatbelt check area.
I mean, and simple things like, you know, I think part of the problem is that everyone is so connected to their cell phone constantly, you know, and you're checking your email for work and you're text messaging and you're making sure that you're not missing anything. So, you know, the thought of not turning your phone off while you're in the car, or putting it on vibrate, or, you know, putting it in the glove compartment, or telling people prior, you know, listen, when I'm driving, don't, you know, I'm not going to be answering my cell phone, you know, things like that. The thought of that is very scary to some people because they just want to stay constantly connected. So, especially if you have a long drive, you know, for an hour, some people, you know, you get 20, 30, 40 emails, and then you kind of feel like I'm out of the loop. So, very, very simple things, you know, because even if you're hands-free, your mind is still thinking. You know, you're still having a conversation on the cell phone, and the thing is, how meaningful are those conversations? I mean, I've done it where, you know, I'm driving, I'm not on the phone or anything like that, but my mind is going, I'm thinking, and I get home and I'm like, how did I get home?
Right.
You know, because you're just kind of used to the path that you drive. But, you know, when you realize the significance of the, you know, the traffic crashes and how cell phones have some part of that, you know, you really stop and think and say, you know, it's really not that important to answer that text right now or take that phone call. You know, just one of the things, too, for our traffic crashes in Elgin, last year we had 4,071 total traffic crashes, and this year, right now, we're at 1,294. So if we continue kind of down that path, we're going to be, you know, probably, yeah, we're probably going to go over from last year. You know, this year alone, we've had 4 fatalities due to 3 traffic crashes. Right?
Yes.
I got yes. But you know, that's last year we had a traffic crash where one we could probably was due to someone being on the cell phone. So it's just very important that people, you know, stay aware, keep their hands on the wheel, their eyes on the road, and, you know, their mind, you know, on what you're doing, which is driving, you know, defensive driving. So that other person who's on their cell phone and you're not, at least you can brake before they hit you or avoid the crash. So,
Ron, maybe just even outside of distracted driving with. Just heading up the traffic division. Any tips or tricks you can give to people when they do get pulled over for how a police officer kind of wants them to react, or what your expectations are of someone? I've told this story before to Jeff. There was a time in Michigan I had gone to get my license plates taken off my car because they had been rusted on, and so I had no plates. I was probably speeding, and
allegedly
got pulled over by a police officer, and I got out of my car, and he then crouched down behind his door, pulled his gun on me, and told me to get back in my vehicle. I was scared to death. And I'm not saying this is Elgin, this was in Michigan, but I mean, what can people, you know, when you pull them over, what are you wanting to see? I mean,
well,
how does
I've dealt with the whole gamut from people crying to people yelling and screaming at me.
I've done the crying before. I was
Did
exhausted.
It work?
Yeah. It worked.
Okay.
You're walking up to the unknown.
Yeah.
You've got to, you know, react to what you're presented with. I like to treat everyone with respect and show them, you know, courtesy. It usually is the violation that's going to determine what is going to happen, not their reaction to it. I mean, some people, you know, like the speeding, if you're going fast enough, you absolutely deserve it, and you're going to get a citation. If it's just a stop and a warning, hey, slow it down a little bit, then we're done. I mean, some people are really surprised when they walk away with just a warning.
Yeah.
Yeah, every time I
got pulled over, I fully expected that, hey, I was wrong, I deserve a ticket, and I haven't always, you know,
okay,
so.
I'll remember you for next time.
I go particularly slow through Elgin.
I mean, and the point of, you know, we do enforcement in you know, we try to gauge our enforcement or do our enforcement in areas that we have a high rate of traffic crashes or citizen complaints. So the traffic enforcement is meaningful, and it's meant to change people's behaviors. It's meant to educate. So we do write a lot of warning tickets, and you know, the point is that we want people to really pay attention to what they're doing and think about their driving you know, behaviors and change them. You know, we get a lot of citizen complaints of people speeding in the neighborhood or running stop signs, and you know, we'll go out there and put a speed trailer which kind of, you know, records how many cars, what the speed is, and we'll do some special enforcement too as well, and we'll find that a lot of times.
Does have cameras? The speed trailers?
Some can,
okay.
Ours don't. But what you'll find too is that a lot of times that the residents that live in that neighborhood are the ones violating the traffic laws, and so you know, it's just a matter of, you know, we go to a lot of community meetings and just tell people to be respectful of your neighbors, and, you know, especially if it's in the school zone and kids are out in summertime, and just slow down. You know, there's really no rush. Leave a little bit earlier. You know.
I remember a statistic from maybe even back as far ago as when I took driver's ed, that I think like the majority of accidents happen within like a half mile of the home or something like that. To your point with the speeding, because you're just getting close and you just want to be done. You can get home or be done with your day or whatever the case may be. So.
Yeah, and I think you know, it's more preparing too. You know, if you know you have to be somewhere at 8 o'clock. And it's an hour away.
A lot of people have problems with
yes,
this.
and you know, and then you see that's where people get very frustrated.
You're
looking at your partner.
Yeah.
Well, I got in my car and I had 1 mile. I couldn't make it.
Well, that was your bad planning. No, you should have last night gotten gas.
Please, I wasn't even paying attention last night.
See,
so like,
I wasn't even paying attention, right?
I wasn't.
Yes, you were on your phone.
See how we brought you in
there?
there?
Texting.
I was busy driving instead of looking at my gas meter.
Oh,
yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's just simple things, and we just want to get the message out, and you know, traffic unit does a great job, but we also need, you know, the community to, you know, engage with us and pay attention to their driving, and, you know, help us reduce the traffic crashes as well. So, yeah.
Ron, anything else? Any words of wisdom? You got
No.
3 sheets full of paper
He's
there.
a man of few words.
Nope, I'm all good.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I just like just the facts, man. I don't know. Yeah.
Just a few things if we're finishing up here,
Please.
just a few reminders. So like I said, the security through surveillance class is this Saturday from 9 to 12. So there are, you know, if anyone wants to come down and join the class, we would like to have you.
Can they just show up tomorrow, or
Sure, they can show up to the
Okay.
front desk and we'll help register them.
Okay.
A CERT class starts on May 7th. There's Chiefs meeting coming up on the 27th, and then we are going to have the week of April 28th and 29th. We're doing Operation Prom Night with St. Ed's and Larkin High School. So this is where we reconstruct a traffic scene due to DUI, and it stresses the importance of you know, scenario-based training about the dangers of driving drunk or driving intoxicated to high school students. So that's going to be coming up as well.
That happened in one of my proms.
Yeah.
Not somebody I knew, but
It's very unfortunate.
Yeah.
So we, you know, try to get the message out to the high school students too as well, and you do a realistic kind of scenario where the impact is meaningful. So a lot of events going on at the police department, a lot of great work, and so that's it. Thanks for having us.
no, thanks for coming in. Will you be here next Friday as well?
The chief will be here.
Okay.
Unless he tells me to be here. So
Okay.
yes,
Well,
the
and
chief
then
will
you
be
do
here.
what he says.
Yes,
Good.
exactly.
All right, Ron, thank you very much for joining us, and Commander Lalley, Ron Spejcher, thanks
Thank
for
you.
the Elgin Police. You have a great weekend.
You too.
You're listening to AM 1410, WRMN.
And Elgin.